Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss how the Conservatives have taken their first step towards a serious attempt to rebuild their reputation by explicitly and formally attacking the economic ideas of Liz Truss, promising that the Tories will never again put the economy at risk like that. Needless to say, Truss herself was not impressed, but it will be no bad thing for the Conservatives to have a row with their former leader and lunatic-in-chief. But is it too little too late? But first, for daily news and politics, please hit the subscribe button to stay notified. So infighting, usually a very bad look for any political party. However, there are exceptions to any rule. Liz Truss is stunningly unpopular in the UK, and almost nobody believes that she was undone by the woke blob or any number of other imagined enemies, as she blames these days. The impact of her mini budget was sudden, so obvious, so devastating, the wider public will never listen to her again. And it wasn't the woke blob who cost her seat in what was a ridiculously safe Conservative seat in last year's election, was it? That was the people. The MRP polling showed that the Conservative candidate should have comfortably held on to that seat. But an MRP poll cannot take account of the perception of individual candidates. So a particularly popular local candidate will do better than the MRP would suggest, and a stunningly unpopular candidate would do worse. Truss brought with her a huge vote deficit because of her time as Prime Minister. She only got about 2/3 of the votes that polling suggested a generic Conservative candidate would have got. So it's not just safe for the Conservatives to explicitly call out Truss as the sort of person you wouldn't want anywhere near government again. It actually makes tactical sense. And an absolutely essential strategy for a party having suffered a crushing election defeat is to give the public the impression that you recognise your failings and are putting them right. Since becoming leader, Badenoch was happy enough to say her party let the public down, but never cited the issues which the public actually had with them. She was actually seeming to imply that, where we went wrong is we didn't do enough of the unpopular stuff. So this move is a fairly big change for them. I think Kemi Badenoch is feeling the pressure a little bit. She's even actually said, I will get better as leader. She's recognising that she's halfway through her effectively probation period. So they've actually gone after something that was now a genuine source of unpopularity for the Conservatives. The downside for them is that the message was delivered by the Conservative Shadow Chancellor Mel Stride. And I'm not being rude. Stride does not have the sort of personality which allows him to get messages out to the general public without a lot of supporting infrastructure. And the Conservatives, just like every other political party, are absolutely rubbish at using the media to their advantage. Now, normally, they can rely on the Tory client media to do that job for them, so it's not actually as big a deal for the Conservatives. However, Trussonomics seems to be popular with several of the editors who manage those outlets, so they're not getting any help on this one. But all is not lost. Liz Truss is a spectacular idiot, and because she took exception to being described as having undermined the credibility of the UK economy, she fired back by saying, oh, ridiculous. The Tories will never win power until they recognise that their problem was pursuing a globalist leftist agenda. This would be the same Conservative government which left public services in ruins, the rivers badly polluted, privatised everything that was left to privatise, and left public sector pay lower in real terms than during the global banking crisis. Yeah, that's a right leftist agenda, that. But the public aren't going to buy into Truss's excuses. I've said it before. I do not know why shady think tanks are still funding her. She doesn't have an effective connection with the public. She's not in Parliament anymore, so she's got no influence. She's not an effective spokesperson for any product, but she can still be useful to the Tories. The Conservatives have formally trashed Truss's economic ideas very explicitly, but having the message delivered by Mr. Forgettable is not ideal. So having Liz Truss Barbara Streisand the issue for them works pretty well. In fact, they should keep poking at her and her economic ideas, constantly bait her, savage them, and she'll keep retaliating. The message then may get out there that the Tories have distanced themselves from Truss, which will be a big help to them. Now, this won't be enough for them to rebuild, of course. Acknowledging the failures which the public associate with you is important, and it's ridiculous that it's taken this long to even begin tackling this. There are others they'll have to address as well. But even if they rapidly now accept the sources of their unpopularity, remember, they don't have to own up to everything they did wrong, only everything that the public recognises they did wrong. disown the policies behind them, even then they will still need to develop their own policies. Like, Badenoch cannot stick by this line that it's going to take 2 years to develop some detailed policies. The Conservatives aren't going to give her 2 years. The public may not give the Conservatives 2 years. This isn't like the old days when the government would be led by either Labour or the Conservatives. She has competition on the right wing. The government that replaces Labour does not necessarily have to be a Conservative government. You know, there could be a future where you've got Labour and the Conservatives on the opposition benches together. She needs to not only slay the demons of her party's immediate past, but Reform UK's present. But instead of doing so, she continues to insist, oh, Reform UK's demons, they're actually really cool. We should be more like them. She's now tentatively shifting towards attacking the European Court of Human Rights when she'd previously insisted that the idea of leaving it was a red herring that wouldn't solve any problems. Indeed, that's what earned her the support of more moderate Conservatives, even though she's not generally moderate in nature. The Conservatives have multiple lines they can use against Reform UK should they choose. You know, the Tories have just rejected the economic ideas of Liz Truss. Yet Nigel Farage is a supporter of them, and last week announced that Reform UK would put even more extremes of the same policies in place if they formed a government. Why aren't the Conservatives attacking that as well? Inviting attacks not only from Truss but Farage. That works in their favour. In fact, Mel Stride, given he has no media presence, should actively poke at those who are more newsworthy. Pick fights with them. Get yourself known that way. But they will still have to say what they would do in government even then. They can criticise the policies of others all day long, and of course that is part and parcel of politics. But if you want people to vote for you, you have to say what you would do differently. And we're still not getting any announcements from Badenoch on what that would be. They have yet to announce a single policy that makes them stand out. You know, they're currently just trying to claim that they'd do all the they'd pay for all the popular stuff that Labour are doing, but without the taxes to pay for it, without saying how they would fund it. And they're trying to claim that they approve of Reform UK's policies, but are only prepared to half-arse them. It's not a compelling offer. But making a break with Trussonomics is a start. But as the party could genuinely be destroyed at some point in the future, they may need to move a bit more quickly if they want to avoid being sat at the back alongside the DUP. That being said, their polling is holding up, so perhaps they think they do have time, although I would say that's a very risky approach to take. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.